Olá, tá começando mais um Pixel Summer e hoje temos Nick Groeneveld. Ele vem do estúdio de produção criativa Ambassadors, onde é conhecido por seu amor por personagens detalhados e cenários de animação em miniatura. Eles elaboram o melhor conteúdo criativo em publicidade, cinema e arte. Agradecemos o apoio do Consulado Geral do Reino dos Países Baixos em São Paulo. E Nick, seja muito bem-vindo. Agora é com você.
Well, hello, hi, welcome. My name is Nick Groeneveld, which you can see here. I'm an art director and an animator at Ambassadors. This is actually me in a nail salon, although I did cut my hair in the meantime, as you can see. Well, I didn't do it myself, but the barber did, of course. And I wrote art in between brackets because besides animation, I also focus a lot on telling stories with design. And so, just to begin, I want to start off with a showreel to get you in the mood a bit. How it all started. Well, when I was a kid, I wanted to join the army because I played a lot of video games, and it's funny because since the corona, I picked that up again. I lost it for a while, but I picked it up, which is quite fun. But anyway, I wanted to join the army, but my parents wouldn't let me because they thought it was too risky or whatsoever. So I had to do something else with my life, which is actually I drew a lot. Well, not as in drool as in the wet stuff from your mouth, but I like the past sentence of drawing. And I love that. So I went to the first school, which is called the Grafisch Lyceum Rotterdam, and we made a film there called Flushed in 2009, so that's a while ago. And this school is like a general art school. You have to see it as it has multiple directions like print, DTP, illustration, just random media stuff. Well, not random, it's a cool school and it was really fun. But it was actually the first time I loved going to school after the school before that school. So I had to choose between, after 2 years, I had to choose between animation and games. And for some reason, I didn't choose games, although I really liked them at that time. But I chose animation, which I definitely not regret now, because I love doing it, and I love making beautiful films. This is my graduation film. So in 2009, so it's a while ago. And after 2 years of animation, because the first 2 years were pretty general. So we graduated with this film called Flushed, and together with a fellow student and friend called Kjeld Slingerland. It's a Dutch friend, definitely a Dutch name. So the story is about a tarsier, which is a monkey that gets separated from his caterpillar friend, and they go through a whole journey, and eventually he finds his friend back. It's a bit of a spoiler, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to show it, but you have some stills here. So after that school, I graduated. I went to the next school, which is Utrecht School of the Arts. It's an art academy, actually. Also did 4 years there. Sounds like I'm in prison, but it wasn't, because I loved it. And also really focused on animation, and I graduated with the film called Gracht together with 4 other students. Gracht is in Dutch. Gracht is a Dutch word for canal in English. And this was 2013. And what's interesting about this film was it was my first film that really had this miniature look. And later, yeah, you'll see that later. I'm not going to spoil everything. So this was the first project, of course, with the miniature look. We made this in Maya. Some of you might know it, some of you don't. And rendered it with Maxwell. And Maxwell tend to use a very, very slow render engine. But we were stubborn and they told us not to, but we did it. And it's quite cool that we actually pulled it off in the end. Yeah, but we loved it, and if I look back at it today, this is one of the projects I still love, and it looks great. Story isn't really amazing, but I think the look makes it up in a way. So yeah, these are some stills. So I wanted to move to Amsterdam, which was a big inspiration also for this film. Also some cartoons and like this bit dirty style of character design. And we made this together with Joost de Jong, Michael Koning, and Jeroen Holmans, which is funny because I still work with him. He's a rigger and a pipeline TD at our studio, Ambassadors. But I think I'm going to show you the film now. I'm going to show you the film because this is the only film that before my time here was really the style that we're thriving for now also. You really feel that it's this miniature feel, and we're going to talk about 2 projects that also have this miniature feel, and in a way, yeah, it's I just look at it. It's cool. So when I look back at it, I still love it. The story isn't really amazing, but it looks great. So while I was a student at Ambassadors, I did some courses in Czech Republic in a place called Little Missile, which we made fun of because we pronounced it as Little Missile, which was quite fun, still is. That was a film directed by Kenny Roy, who's also an animator on King Kong, or was, or he's still an animator on King Kong, but back then. And he teaches us the basic of cartoony or snappy animation, if you will. This was a film about a greedy pirate who gets a chest full of money and then drops a coin. And he's so greedy that he wants it, like he wants all of it. And then he changes it when it rolls down the whole ship. This was a sort of a modular animation. So every student there had his own shot where he came in and then did the gag or the joke in the cartoony way. And then he went out of the screen and we can cut on those moments. And then we created this whole film. It was quite challenging, but really fun. So this was my shot. So it's this pirate that lights a cannon and sort of notices it and then gets scared and runs off. And then, it was a really fun exercise in a way. So after that, in 2013, I did another short film as a external course, also in the Czech Republic, Anomalia, called Wildlife Crossing, and that was directed by Anthony Wong, who worked at Pixar at that time. I'm not sure if he still does. And this was a story about two snails who fell in love near a highway, but the highway. They can't really get together because of the highway that separated them. So it's a very sad story, but also fun. Yeah, typical Pixar story in a way. So these are some frames. I suggest you look it up. It's a fun story. And I mean, if I look back at it, it still looks great. So so every student made a few shots, and later we combined them as in a full film. And I really love these courses because you are in a house in Czech Republic with all these other students that have the same love for animation as I did or do. Yeah, it was a while ago. So after I graduated the HKU, I started working at Ambassadors as a CG artist, but also an animator. And later I went more like the design and animation direction. And I became an art director, which is quite fun, and later a director. So what we do is we tell stories through design and animation, and we make sure that everything we create, like an animation or still or whatsoever, has a coherent style and fits the brand we're working for, actually. So most things we do are TV commercials, but we also do online films. And it's just... every day is a different work day, and you have the opportunity to create something new, which is great. So it doesn't feel the same. Every day feels different. So we are a creative production studio, and we do everything in-house. That is one of our strengths. You know, we do the creative production, we do the animation, the design, visual effects, and CG. We do the sound design at the same time. We do also music, edit, color, and we have a lab for the innovation. We have over 70 studios. That's actually a joke, but since the corona, everyone works at home, so it feels a bit like 70 studios, but it's actually one, or maybe not. No, it's three. We have actually 3 studios. We have one in, of course, I live in Holland. In Amsterdam, we have 2 studios and one in New York. It's great, man. So this is us. Not really how we look in real life, of course, but it's close. I mean, our illustrator Maureen made like all these avatars for us, and I have to say they look spot on. I'm not sure if I can find myself, but maybe you can. So There are these are some of the jobs we did. These are just a small amount, but yeah, we do 2D and like 2D jobs, 3D jobs, motion design jobs, car commercials, character-driven jobs, more arty films. Yeah, we do all sorts of films as long as we get paid well. No, joking. No, so these are the two I'm going to talk about, which is both for ASM Bank. One is called the PVC horse, that's the left one, and one is called the Shady Bug, which is quite fun. And they both have these miniature style look where I was talking about before. And it looks very similar, well, not the film, but for my graduation film of the Art Academy. So we're going to start with the PVC horse. So the idea is to inform the Dutch audience of the fact that ASM Bank thrives for a cleaner environment. So a little inside of the story. Seahorse falls in love with a Q-tip and says, "What a cute tip." But that love has no future because they get separated by other plastic waste. The waste gets disposed, and because of that, she finds her true love. So the storyboard first, after the script, we polish together with the agency called Selmore, which is a great agency, and we start making a storyboard. So this is to be honest, this is a pretty detailed storyboard already. Because this looks already way better than we not normally do. But like a storyboard is just to make the story work. It doesn't always have to be pretty as long as it's clear and it tells what we need to know and it tells the story. And sometimes, like we did here, we already implement some color just to get a bit of a mood. For instance, on the middle right, you see that it's more gray, and that makes it a bit more sad. And then the bottom right is more pink, and that's more like a vibrant, a live color, love, you know. So that's something we do sometimes. Then we go into the concept and design phase. We have to make everything from scratch in these films, so everything has to be designed, of course, and we have to design everything so it gets like a nice coherent world, so everything fits together nicely, as in the characters, the props, the environment, whatsoever. So in the beginning, we just start sketching without any boundaries. We just put the idea on the table and just let our illustrators and lovely people work on it, and they try different shapes, different colors, different proportions, obviously, and then we slowly come closer to the desired design. Eventually, not after 8 sketches, but more like it's a bunch, and it's more or less trying out what doesn't work and what does work and what really defines the character in a way. So when we find the desired design, we start making them in different poses and angles, just to get a feeling of the character. We try different color schemes to see what works, and it's just trying out a lot, so you don't miss that one cool detail. If you finish the film, you're like, oh no, man, we should have done that. You know, you don't want that. You don't want to do that. So there was a male and a female version, as you can see. The male version is a bit more manly, has a bit more chest, a bit longer jawline, and the female is a bit more soft. Not their character, because she's spicy, but she's more like soft in her face and just more feminine, if you will. So color is not always working. Sometimes black and white also works. And we try to combine these characters with the backgrounds and see if it fits and see how much detail we need in a shot. And sometimes working with values and black and white is enough to get a certain mood already, like you can see here. We design props which have a certain role in films, of course. The props that are more close to camera get more detail and more attention than in the of course in the background of the film, because also in the background most of it is blurred, so you don't want to put too much detail in that. And this was a place where the seahorses would live in the rocks, actually. Some layout sketches of how we feel the environment will work in the film. So just to get familiar with the environment. Adding some color to get the mood and the underwater feel, of course. Speaking of colors, you don't want to, like, selecting some colors so that it feels like a coherent style, and that also makes it mature in a way. If you work with too many colors, it feels like a more like a toy shop. We try to use like contrasty colors. So in the foreground we have more like reddish, warm tints, and in the background we have, like, because we had to work with water, it would be like more blue, purple tints. That creates a nice contrast. Later in the design stage, we add more detail to really get a rich feeling in the style frames also, and see how far we can push it. This is trying out the moment where she sees the Q-tip for the first time, and it has to be like a magical feeling. So eventually we added a bunch of magical jellyfish on the background, which like move very slowly and gives it like this feeling, you know, God rays everything. But we already gave it one subtle hint of plastic. So we animated a plastic bag as a jellyfish. So during the film we added more and more waste to build up to a certain climax. This was a lovely style frame by Rachel. So also we designed secondary creatures around the environment to add like richness and life in the environment. And also it gives a bit of the feeling that there's a world behind just the 16:9 screen. You know, it has to feel like a really rich world, and you can do that by characters and life in the background. So we make several designs for the environments, assets like fishes, plants, coral, happy sea stars, like you see on the top right, etc. Everything has to be designed in a way, and it has to be like coherent, if you will. So also, like you can see here, it's just trying out stuff and see what works and what's more important doesn't work. Some design of the waist, not all the same material. We try to tend to work with different materials, so you have like different reflections on stuff, and that makes it really rich and well crafted. So after the storyboard phase, we dive into the animatic phase. This is mostly to get a feel for the timing and staging. And also later, it's really handy to use on set, because you can see what you need in shot.
This is the tale of the PV seahorse. She fell in love. He was strong, but had his soft sides too. What a cute tip, she thought. But their love had no future. Just like our love of plastic, because it'll take forever to decompose, unless we dispose of disposables altogether, so the little seahorse can find her true love. Choose a bank that strives for a cleaner environment, so money can create happiness. ASN Bank.
Of course, the miniature set. We tend to work with miniature sets. We together with a set builder called Gotze design these stages, and then he builds them and gathers all the needs for it. And he made such beautiful miniature sets already. Most of the time we make them modular, so as you can see the bottom right, all these arches are separate, so we can remove them or put them in shot. So if we need an angle for the camera is like a big thing, of course, so you need a bit of space for that. So you can just build one set and just glue it all together in a way. So as you can see here, all sorts of water, sponges, coral made from clay, sand, foam, and as a base for the structure of the arches. Everything is just to make a natural and pretty image, to be honest. We also really dress the shot in camera, so we are constantly moving around different props and just to make it feel sexy in shot, because eventually that's where you're working towards, and you want to make that one shot beautiful. You want to really put that love in it. So for the lighting for this underworld world, we used a bath full of broken pieces, which is quite interesting. I have never seen it before, but that was the first time. It works like this. The light reflects on the shelves, maybe that's a word, like the broken pieces, in a bath of water, and then it creates all these caustics which reflect up, and then with a mirror we project it back on the set. So you get these caustics moving around, what you have underwater, which is, man, I love the idea. But now I know. So for the animation, I think I'm just going to show it. This is actually the animation pass without the lighting and the rendering and the materials. So you'll see that in a while. Oh no, sorry. So we start off with, of course, if you go into animation, you cannot just start animating. It's just you need to get a feel for the thing you need to animate. So in this case, that was the seahorses. And as you can see, they're pretty boring. So you have to make the best of it, and definitely spice things up in a way. And that's what we try to do. So sometimes when I start animating and it's more like this, it's more like a physical animation, and they have to travel a lot of distance. I started off with a ball, just a simple ball, so I don't have to pay attention to like all these arms and legs and a tail and that kind of stuff. I just can focus on this one ball and the movement, and also the staging, because you can just you already feel it. And if you just add like the seahorses already to it and just build from there, you already have a good base to animate on, which helps me a lot. So now we can see the animation without the lighting and the materials, and I think just have a look and see how it looks.
This is the tale of the PVC horse. She fell in love. He was strong, but had his soft sides too. What a cute tip, she thought. But their love had no future. Just like our love of plastic, because it'll take forever to decompose, unless we dispose of disposables altogether. So the little seahorse can find her true love. Choose a bank that strives for a cleaner environment, so money can create happiness. ASN Bank.
So obviously this needs a bit of look development, because in my opinion, it looks cool, and you really see the animation, and it doesn't get blurred away in the background. But the clients don't really tend to like that, so we need to add materials and textures, and that's what we do. We just grab the character and just see what works best with the character. For this one we use like these cool reflective materials, a bit of a bump in it, a bit of texture in it, and that really brings it alive. And we try to use not as much, but like multiple materials to give it that rich feel. And also the materials mostly fit their personality. So if you have like a soft character, you want to use like filled or softer materials, and if you have like an old character, you want to work with older materials or that have a bit of wear and tear, just to strengthen their character a bit. So this is how the model looks without textures, just lighting. And then after that, when we apply these textures and lighting and materials, you already see that it really gives a bit of life. He looks a bit dead in a way, but that's how turntables work. It's always a difficult thing to present to clients because you don't feel the character yet. Because that's also in the animation, of course. In the animation, you can really give it a bit character. But it's 50%. It's there. So for the male, also we try out different colors and slightly more manly proportions. The female is more round and soft, and the male is more with the bigger chest and the jaw, like I said. And then, of course, for the background creatures. We make turntables. This is also to see how they react on light. If they rotate, you can see from every direction how they react on light. And that's very handy because you can pick up mistakes or whatsoever, or spice things up a bit. It's like cooking. Sometimes you just have to add a bit of salt. So I want to show you guys the making of this commercial. And also, you will see some compositing and visual effects, which I didn't talk about, but as well as music and sound design. And that's also what we do in-house. So have a look.
This is the tale of the PVC horse. She fell in love.
So, the film, that's something we have to look at now. Well, you don't really have to, but it would be nice. I'm going to just show it and enjoy.
This is the tale of the PVC horse. She fell in love. He was strong, but had his soft sides too. What a cute tip, she thought. But their love had no future. Just like our love of plastic, because it'll take forever to decompose, unless we dispose of disposables altogether. So the little seahorse can find her true love. Choose a bank that strives for a cleaner environment, so money can create happiness. ASN Bank.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. We're gonna talk about the other one, which is the Shady Bug, which was actually made at the same time. We made two commercials together, and it was quite fun because one it was underwater and one it was above water. I don't know how you call that, in forest actually. Really small scale, which is this one. So the idea of the Shady Bug is to inform the Dutch audience of the fact that ASN Bank does not invest in shady regimes, unlike other bigger banks. So the story of the Shady Bug is that the Shady Bug tries to rule the world as a great leader. He has no trouble with outside opinions as long as they stay outside. Everyone follows except for one, the ASM Bank, because they don't work with shady regimes. Like the other one, after we polished the script together with Selmer, we also started, of course, on the storyboard. It's something you just need. You cannot pick one and just don't do it, and then sometimes clients ask for that. Well, can't you don't do that? Can't you skip the storyboard and just start with the animatic? No, it's like a process. You can also not cook without a pan in a way. So this is actually a storyboard how we normally make those. So it's a bit less pretty in a way, but it works. So the book opens on the left side, laptop, and then we see the Shady Bug giving orders to all the forest creatures. On top left, he even has his own statue built, and later he has everything and everyone in his power, as you can see right bottom. Then we wipe by one of the forest creatures marching, and we see the Shady Bug knock on a tree, which is actually a metaphor for the bank. He knocks on the bank's door. But we see a squirrel not giving a shit, actually, in a good way. So the Shady Bug leaves, and this actually means that ASN does not support shady regimes and doesn't help the Shady Bug. It's a fun, small story, yet effective. So after that, or at the same time, we dive into concept and design. So like the other one, we have to design everything from scratch. Think of trees, leaves, a fence on the right bottom, a horn on the top right, which the Shady Bug uses to talk to his people, which you can see here. And everything has to be natural, because that's what they're standing for, the ASM Bank. So we can't come up with plastic stuff in the forest. It all has to be natural, which is pretty cool, because you can find ways to, or find alternative ways to make something really cool. So after there are many designs of the Shady Bug before we can find like the cool one, to really find the Shady Bug. So, and it's important to use a lot of drawings and try out a lot of things, because you need to make sure you don't miss a thing while you're designing. So it's better to just make a lot of sketches and try a lot of things before. Maybe you already designed the cool one before, like the first one you draw, but then it's good to still continue and make the other ones to really make sure you have the best sketch you want to have. So it's just trying out different stuff, like bigger, smaller, really play with proportions. They don't have to always already be amazing, especially in the beginning. Just make quick sketches, not too long, and not really detailed. It's all searching the right direction. So trying out if the shield could work as a cape, like a lot of villains have, or of course a general hat that could play a big role when he moves. He's like small guy and he moves and his hat goes with overlap, and he just jumps around and in the environment while his hat goes like all the directions. Like trying out different eye types, bigger eyes, smaller eyes. Maybe he has his own medals on his jacket, self-made medals, because he wants to be this big influencer is not a word, but guy. Trying to work with primitive shapes, like building from like circles and triangles and that kind of stuff, to see if that works, because that definitely on miniature scale that works well, because you don't always have the tools to create a lot of detail in the shapes. So mostly primitive shapes work well, and if you add detail later on that, it could really work out well. So like I said, adding detail, and more or less, you come to the direction you really want to go to, you add more detail. That's what I wanted to say. So adding small tweaks, adding props, etc. What always helps is adding little words or text that really define his personality. So if someone reads, he gets into the mood, and you have your idea in his head. You know, you can't always. If you show a drawing and it's for your imagination is this character, it's not always clear for other person, because he has a different background. Maybe I don't know, he's from India or whatsoever. So you need to give him as much information as you can. When you're sort of happy with a design, you add the right colors, and then you can add a bit of detail once you're happy with it. And when you have your design and you need to give it to the guys that make the models, you need to invent all their angles, like how would they look from the front, how would they look from the side, and that's why we make turntables in 2D, just to sort of make it work from every angle. So also like with hat and without hat, because here you don't know how it looks underneath this hat, and now you do. Also what we try to do is create separate facial expressions. So it's just to get familiar with the character, and also for the modeler and for the rigger, he knows how much this will need to stretch or how much detail it needs to have. And also for me as an animator, it's very handy, because I can use it, because this is the character, how it's meant, and in so many steps with different people, it can sort of lose his strength in a way. So yeah. So of course also the forest creatures need designs. The workers that work under his command, of course. So some more designs of the workers we eventually used as a base, and just trying to see how the proportions of the characters work relative to each other. So yeah, now you can see that the ant on the left side is small and the grasshopper is big, you know. And also for these characters we make turnarounds just to lock everything and just see how they would work. Also for the cricket, of course, and also for the bulldozer that can carry a lot of weight. So the animatic, after the storyboard we go into the animatic phase, where we determine the timing and the staging. This is very handy also on set. We can just look at our animatic and see, oh no, when there's a camera move, we need to be a bit faster, or we need to be a bit slower, or oh, it travels this amount of centimeters or meters, whatsoever. So I will show you the animatic. Also, this one is pretty close to the actual film, and that you will see later.
This is the Shady Bug. And as a great leader, others should just follow. Not that he has any problem with outside opinions, as long as they stay outside. But a leader is only as strong as his financial position. And sometimes he has to knock on doors. Fortunately, he can't get credit everywhere. Entrust your money to the bank that never deals with shady regimes, and let your money create happiness. ASN Bank.
So the miniature shoot, let's dive into it. This is a different one than the PVC horse, of course. This one had multiple sets, so it was a bit more work, to be honest. Yeah. So we used a net, like you see mid left, to mimic the light that comes through the leaves. That worked quite well. And also we printed our characters to really get a feel for the size and how the shadows, etc. work. And also sometimes we sprayed the environment just to get that wet forest look, and that it feels fresh and alive. Yeah. And also what you can see on the bottom left is that we used matte paintings to fill up the environment. So you can see it bottom left and top mid. And because we film on such a small scale, it's really hard to paint out that blurry background. So we already put in like a basic background. And you can always add stuff to it, you can always make it richer. And in a way it looks just cool because it feels like this stop motion set where they used to have these flat backgrounds and you really feel that it's flat, but in a way it's a sort of happy mistake, so it works really well. Also we shoot HDRIs, and HDRIs are actually a shot on a reflection ball, and then what happens is it sort of shows you the whole environment, and that picture we can wrap back. It becomes a bit of a technical story, but won't bother you with it. You can wrap it back on a sphere and then have it set around your scene in 3D. So you have like the whole light situation and reflection situation in your Maya scene. So if you render, you have all the information you need on that particular set, from that miniature set. So like you can see here, you see that it really curves, but you can sort of wrap it back on a sphere, and then you can put it around your character, like you see here. So we shoot different materials of which we think we're going to use of the characters in 3D. By doing this, we see how the materials react on color and lighting and that kind of stuff. For instance, this one we use leather and sort of fabric, right, top right, and just see how it reacts on light. For instance, you can see on the bottom one, you can see that the green of the grass really blends or bleeds into the fabric in a way. Also some color grids, which you can see top left, is to check what actual colors, how actual colors would look in the scene. So these we also have in CG, and we can just match it. Some more material checks. We just see, oh, these creatures have to walk here, they have these materials, so we need to test these materials in these lighting situations. This is the ball, this is the ball where I was talking about. So you can see like the camera pointing at the ball, and the ball sort of shows the whole environment, which you can project back. And capture all the lighting and information you need. And that's one of the reasons also we use sets we can sort of match our CG characters, like the quality of it, to the live action shot plates. So you already have a sort of an advantage secretly, and which is really cool. So after we shot the plates, we dive into the animation, which looks like this without materials and lighting. I'm going to show you.
This is the Shady Bug. And as a great leader, others should just follow. Not that he has any problem with outside opinions, as long as they stay outside. But a leader is only as strong as his financial position. And sometimes he has to knock on doors. Fortunately, he can't get credit everywhere. Entrust your money to the bank that never deals with shady regimes, and let your money create happiness. ASN Bank.
Okay, so while I'm animating, the CG and visual effects department is already working on look depth, of course, after they made the models. So trying to find the best materials that fit their outgoing personality, of course. Using multiple materials again to make it feel rich and well crafted. He is like a cool guy, but also like, yeah, you need just like these materials that a general or someone like that has, and that's what you can see here, like a hat, like a cape with this velvet and all these ropes, and yeah, really rich and reflective. So sometimes grabbing your design and just overlay the materials on it really helps, and give this rich feel as a result. So also the side characters, of course, need this treatment. Just, it doesn't have to be, it can be quick and dirty, just put the texture on and see how it looks. Does it work? Doesn't it work? Have a bit of a reflection in the eye and it already gives some life. So, of course, you don't want to make 40 ants, because we have this shot where you see all he gathered all these people, and you don't want to make them all separate. So you can work with different size, different material, not materials, but different colors, and they immediately get their own identity in a way. So just applying materials to our big friend here, and this is how he looks without the material treatment, and this is how he looks with the material treatment, like leather and felt, leather belly and then felt. Also, this is a good example of how two materials can work together and make it really rich. Actually 3, because his eyes are shiny. So also here, like the materials on the Shady Bug, like felt, metal, glass, nature elements, which you can see on his hat, rope, and of course his little self-made medals on his chest. Next to that, he wears an acorn. In Dutch is that eikel. The word acorn is eikel, and we call someone an eikel if he's like a dick. So in a way that's funny, and the agency really loved it. So sometimes you go, yeah, it just works, some materials to our working ant, who has, for instance, shoelaces on his head, which are a really good find. And for our big happy worker, we chose for a bit more hard surface, because he's a hard worker, he's like a tough guy, and he also needs a bit more wear and tear, because he is always in the mosh pit, if you will, and he's always like working, and he gets scratched, and that's cool. It gives him a bit more character and story in a way. And of course our chopper, which transports heavy loads like logs, actually not logs, but more like branches, because we're working on a small scale. And also for this film, I wanted to show you the making of. Also here are compositing and visual effects, and music and sound design included. So after the making of, I want to show you the final result of the film, which is...
This is the Shady Bug, And as a great leader, others should just follow. Not that he has any problem with outside opinions, as long as they stay outside. But a leader is only as strong as his financial position. And sometimes he has to knock on doors. Fortunately, he can't get credit everywhere. Entrust your money to the bank that never deals with shady regimes and let your money create happiness. ASN Bank.
So, the question, why miniature? Well, to be honest, to get away from the computer sometimes and work with definitely cool sets and different people, sometimes you just stuck on sitting behind a computer, and this is also really a way to get outside for a bit. And like I said, to get your CG to a higher level, because you already have the plates, you know how the lighting reacts, you have your materials, you have your printed characters, so you see how the shadows work. You already have that information, so you can just build towards a certain quality level and match your CG to it, which is great and really pumps up the value. So how do we cook the miniature look? Well, of course, the frames per second. The plates are shot on 25 frames per second. That means just like how you film it. But I sometimes animate the frames only where I need them. So it feels a bit stepped in a way, like it's jagging, you know, like tack, 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 tack. But that could really add to the feel of the miniature feel. And sometimes when there's a movement is what a bit quicker, I use more frames, and when it's slow, like I don't know, someone breathing or something, you can easily tone down your keyframes and just keep it stepped. And for instance, here we added dynamics on the shoulder pads, which work really well, and that kind of stuff. So also the depth of field, of course. When you film a small object, you get a high range of sharpness, but also a high range of blurriness in the image. And you can create this in your scene, just your Maya scene, by just working on a small scale with small objects, and just use the physical camera like a camera we use in the real world. And that, because if you film, like make a picture of a small thing, it immediately becomes blurry or unsharp, like a big range, shallow depth of field. Then what is really cool to use is a real world reference. Like you can see here on the picture, we used an acorn, which is an apple, in the background, and of course the flowers. And I don't know if you see it, but in the back there's a little drop of water sliding down, and all those things together, you don't really necessarily get it the first time, but you do feel it. You really get a sense of scale, which is great. And then also the scale and the textures and materials are bigger on a small scale. So don't make it too detailed and too perfect. Like all the edges are jagged, and the stitches, like the lines of the stitches are wider, and that really adds to that it's less perfect. You know, if you work on small scales, things are less perfect. And yeah, that's these. Sometimes you put on render and you come up with this happy accident, and that immediately feels really good. And that's what I love also about miniature animation. You don't have to make everything so perfect. And we have this rule at Ambassadors, which is called have as much twice as thick. Vincent, who recently left here, came up with that, and I loved it. So not him, the rule, which is actually, for instance, with the stitches, you know, when something's smaller, you tend to use less of the amount of the stitches in this case, and that works really well. And also, like for instance, the leather texture, you feel that you feel that it's bigger. If you wear a leather coat, you don't see that texture so obviously, but when you have it like a small piece of leather, the texture becomes bigger. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and feel free to contact me on the social media. I hope you liked the presentation, and you can just for more work follow us the Instagrams or the website or the Facebook or at more my personal page, which is dg.artist on Instagram. So I hope you enjoyed it and enjoy.